Hello, dear students. In this lecture, we will discuss the definition of the concept of foreign policy. This is our first chapter of the book Foreign Policy Analysis. In discussing this chapter, we have some main objectives in our minds, and these are first defining and discussing the concept of foreign policy. We have to understand what foreign policy is at the first stage, and understanding and explaining the structure and agency debate in international relations is of high importance for us because the structure and agency structure debate is a new one in current international relations, but it's very impressive and determining for foreign policy analysis. And we will also discuss the objectives, foreign policy objectives of states. Now, let's begin first by the definition of foreign policy. Now, first, foreign policy is about the outside world. This means that structures, agents, contexts covered by foreign policy are beyond the political borders of a state. It is the outside world, the external world. However, although it is related to the outside world, the internal environment of a state is also very important in making foreign policy. Foreign policy decisions are not made in an international vacuum. There is a strong domestic dimension of every foreign policy decision, which we will see later on this lecture. Now, the first reason of the external-internal relation is globalization, of course. Globalization and to some extent regional integration has blurred the lines between domestic and foreign spheres of political action. There is no strict line difference between the domestic and foreign spheres of political action when it comes to making of foreign policy. Now, the increase in the number, international reach, capabilities, and impact of non-state actors, including but not limited to national and transnational non-governmental organizations, serves as a catalyst in strengthening the link between domestic and foreign policy. Now, then although foreign policy is about the outside world, there is a strong link between domestic and foreign policy, and the main reason is that the number, capabilities of non-state actors has increased with the effect of globalization and regional integration in current international system. Okay. When it comes to actors and structures in foreign policy, because before discussing the agent structure problem, we have to define the actors and structures of foreign policy. Now, in the international environment, a multitude of actors are involved in foreign policy decision-making, whose nature, position, thinking, actions are affected and shaped by structures, both at the domestic and international levels, as I have mentioned. Now, in return, the character and composition of these structures are also transformed by the deliberate actions of these actors. Then this means that while on the one hand, actors are influenced by existing structures, on the other hand, the existing structures are shaped by the decisions of foreign policy decision makers. Then there is a mutual constructive relationship. Now, according to the traditional, conventional, or widely common used approach, states are the dominant actors of international relations and foreign policy. These are the state-centric approaches, and they assume that the issues of high politics, which means security and survival, prevailed over low politics, like economics or social issues, in the conduct of foreign policy, and the main single most important actor of the making of foreign policy is the state. Now, there are also newer approaches like the pluralist approach, which provides a better framework for analyzing the disorders and complexities of contemporary foreign policy issues, because the actors are numerous in our contemporary international system, and it is not possible to focus only on the state as the single actor of foreign policy making. Therefore, it is better to be pluralist in our approaches. Now, we can discuss in more detail the agency structure problem. Now, the agency is mostly the actor which we assume who made the decisions. And a structure is, as Bailey, Smith, and Owens defined, something that exists independently of the actor. It is independent of the actor, but it is an important determinant in the nature of action. Now, the structure serves as a mechanism that compels actor behavior, and therefore, if you want to understand state behavior, you have to analyze the structure of the international system as well. Now, in summary, the agency structure problem is about which to prioritize over the other, agency or structure. And according to the constructivist approaches, neither agency nor structure is more important as the other. And if you want to have a sophisticated foreign policy analysis in your hand, you have to focus both on the agency and the structure. You have to accept that the structure of the international system influences the actor, the agency, but on the other hand, the decisions made by the agency actors can shape the structure of the international system. Then it is a bidirectional relationship. Now, the actors can be assumed as agents with foreordinate identities and unchanging interests, are somehow immune to the effects of social interaction amongst themselves and the social frameworks within which they stroll, and actors as servants of the structure without any real initiative. This means that the first means, if you focus only on the actor, the agent, you avoid to see the effects of the structure. But the second says us that if you remain to be a structuralist, you can not see the effect of the actors made on the structure of the international system. No, there are many foreign policy objectives of states. Foreign policies are made to reach these objectives. And these objectives might involve the survival, security of the state, protection of a particular ideology or extending it, the well-being of your society, or the pursuit of more power. Note that any effort to understand foreign policy objectives should start by the determination of the priorities and the objectives of the given country. Now, this means that if you want to understand a foreign policy of a state, the foreign policy of a state, you have to first determine the priorities of the state. Then you can understand with which priorities the state will pursue which objectives. As a next stage, you should analyze the system, because the systemic analysis would provide the decision maker with the information he or she needs to understand the constraints, risks, and opportunities that the structure of the international system provides. Now, after that, the capability analysis comes. Now, if you decide to pursue an objective, you have to evaluate, assess your capability to do it. This means that you have to assess rationally your national power. What is a national power? National power is a very broad factor, and elements of national power can be history, culture, geostrategic location, military power, economy, resources, system, and the efficiency of the government, your position in the international power hierarchy, all have a bearing on its policy choices, because if you have the capability, you can pursue this policy. Now, elements of national power are able to solely be decisive on the outcome of any interstate conflict, neither the success of foreign policy. The essence of the success of any foreign policy boils down to the quality of the assessment made and decision taken by people responsible for foreign policy decision making. This means that a decision maker, before reaching a decision on a foreign policy objective, have to rationally assess the national power of the country. Okay, if you cannot evaluate your power in your hand, you will probably fail in reaching your foreign policy objective. Thank you for listening and watching this lecture.